R2, Terrestrial Thursday. How are you today?
I'm doing very well, man. The weather here is fantastic. I'm enjoying myself. Market's not so great today as they haven't been for a little while now, but we're all good over here. How are you doing?
I am doing great. We have an awesome slew of guests today with us from Metavolution, of course, on the stage right now. I just talked to Dots. He unfortunately had something come up. He's going to try to make it, and he may join us in a little bit. But if he can't, we're going to reschedule for next week. But we're really happy to have you guys up here. And yeah, we're going to have a great discussion today about what's called P2E, and we like to call play and own.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to welcome up the team from Metavolution, and I think that that's a great place to start, is just to do an introduction about who you guys are, how you got started in crypto, how that led to NFTs, and now getting ready to launch a project.
Yeah, it's Terry. Can you guys hear me?
You sound great.
All right. Thank you for having us here, first of all. I'm Terry Williamson. I'm one of the co-founders, and you'll hear my partner Sam here in just a minute. And for us, this whole experience started towards the end of last year for lots of reasons. One, you'll find out in a few seconds that Sam and Fred are both avid gamers, like lifetime obsessed types with some pretty successful projects. But I would say the aha moment for me happened, watched Gary Vee and what he did. And then I watched, Sam was just walking me through all along with Alex Becker and Neo Tokyo. And, the whole world went crazy with NFTs there for a minute. So for me, what happened is the world had passed the tipping point on crypto. Adoption was going crazy. And then I turned around to my partner, Sam, and I said, did you not build $100 million gaming brand? And he's like, yeah. And aren't you an avid gamer? Yeah. And so that's when kind of all these magical things happen. And we went, holy crap, we've got to go do this. So I'm more of the serial entrepreneur. That just means I've been doing a lot of different things a long time. First half of my career was very traditional. I built a 9-figure business, a consulting firm from scratch, retired for a little while. But the last 10 years have been back on the digital side, first with a pretty big digital marketing firm, then e-commerce where I met Sam. And now we are 1,000% all in on crypto, of course, but even more so NFTs and even more so play to earn on-chain games. So that's me. Sam, take it away.
Yeah, no, it's funny you mentioned the market is a little weird. I meant that's an understatement, I guess, but it's perfect time to launch a project. So as Terry said, I used to game a lot. Don't have as much time right now, but I paid for college playing Diablo 3, like when it released in 2012, I think. Had some bots and sold gold there and made enough money to pay for college. Did some stuff university, did some pension investing as an actuary, which just means like modeling, a lot of data and all these things, which definitely came in handy when it came to tokenomics and the market overall. And then, yeah, I enjoyed it, but really didn't want to feel like I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. So I ended up changing to e-commerce. As Terry said, build a $100 million gaming accessories company. Then in 2019 or 2020, met Terry. We've been doing masterminds and other couple businesses ever since. And then when we saw crypto, we're like, more specifically NFT, we're like, yeah, that's we're all in. Like, didn't take long for us to just shut down some of the stuff we were doing and just want to make sure we had like all our attention on NFT, but more specifically Metavolution.
And yeah, finally, I'm Fred, by the way, under the Metavolution account, known me as Bullfrog in the community. I'm just basically all over the place. I was one to introduce Sam to a few P2E projects that I was playing. When he saw it, of course, we're lifelong friends, so we have the same interests. As soon as he saw that, he was like, "Oh my god, this is awesome! Like this stuff is great." It's just the combination of our passions for marketing. Again, I worked with him in e-commerce, but this thing is just different. It's so aligned with all our passions, and it's just fun doing this. It's not even work. So, long story short, that's it.
Amazing. I appreciate the introductions there. And it sounds like you guys have a pretty wide array of experiences, but a lot of background in gaming, which is obviously what this space is about. We are all here for our love of NFTs and gaming, and how, we see the crossroads intersecting very well between the two of them. Sam, you actually mentioned Diablo 3, and that might be a good place to kick off the spaces about the P2E gaming. Diablo 3 was one of the first games to try like an in-game real money auction house, but that was a pretty spectacular failure at the after a little while. A lot of people, including a bunch of my friends, made some pretty incredible money in a short period of time, but it was not long for this world, as they kind of canned it after, I think, only a couple of weeks. How do you see the gaming space evolve from that moment to now, where NFTs seem like such a great fit to kind of be layered into games, and how that went wrong, and what NFTs kind of in crypto do to kind of fix the issues that they had?
Yeah, no, I love it. Deep in the subject right away. Yeah, Diablo 3 was a little weird. They took, I guess, the auction house from WoW and then tried to replicate that concept in Diablo. And as you said, it's failed pretty spectacularly. But when it comes to NFT, I have, obviously, I've thought about this a lot. Like, there's the longer term vision where I think it's going to change everything. How that, like, I have no clue, because I think some of the technology is still to be invented. But in terms of like what we have now, I think it's really hard to, because there's the matter of incentives. So if you have like NFT game, it sort of shifts, I think, the perspective of everyone playing. Because when you're playing just a regular game, let's say Fortnite, I'll use the example, it's usually pretty well known. You just log on with your friends, you go chill. If you lose, that's fine. If you get a level up and get some different skins, and so that's cool. But it pretty, like, it stops there. But when you introduce NFTs and monetization to any game, then it becomes tricky, because it's always, when there's money involved, there's always people scamming, there's always people trying to exploit things. So it's really hard to have some site, like some ecosystem, where you have people that are playing just for fun with their friends, and then you have people that are literally like playing just for money. And then you'll probably have some weird things where you'll have I guess offices of people in Asia that'll just like farm the game to make money, and then just ruin the mechanics, because to have fun and to make money is probably going to be different. So yeah, ultimately it's really hard to say where that's going to go. I think we're still a couple of years away from having like a solid couple AAA games that will really figure this out. Yeah, overall, I think it's gonna be really interesting how this plays out. Like, there's obviously, I think, other side, they released a trailer for a little preview of what their metaverse is gonna look like, and so that's probably gonna be also very interesting. But I think anyone that says that they know what's gonna happen is, I'm not gonna say full of shit, because I don't want to offend anyone, but it's gonna be incredibly how like everything's gonna evolve so fast, and what we think is the solution, or what's gonna happen with the game next year, will probably be like completely different. So yeah, no, that's a really interesting topic for sure.
Well, and I know it's cliche, and you always hear when we go into bearish periods, people say this is when builders build, but this is important, because so many of the projects that you see come in when there is a bull market, there are opportunists. They're not there for the real reasons. But the people who continue to build in a bear are probably trying to leverage blockchain and smart contracts for the benefits that they can offer these things, as opposed to just trying to siphon money out of the ecosystem. So I always tell people, it's not just this idea that, oh, nobody was building before, and now that there's no number going up, we're going to go build. It's that people build for the right reasons now, because there's no other reason to build except for those right reasons.
Yeah. And we had this, I mean, this was a fundamental conversation that Sam and I had at the very, very beginning of this, is what are we trying to do? And we understand, I mean, if you're not surprised by the volatility of the crypto market, I mean, come on, guys, it's synonymous, right? So I don't think anybody's shocked. But, you know, I didn't understand this whole concept of promising something, getting paid on a promise, being anonymous and not delivering. I mean, it never even occurred to me, because we've never built a business like this. So like doxing our whole team was, you know, shocking, you know, especially people with our kind of resumes. We don't have investors, so we don't give a crap what investors think. You know, we simply sat down, and this whole thing started out, and it was funny because, guys, remember, I'm not a gamer, but the first conversation was, what if you could build any game you wanted? And next thing I know, Fred and Sam had this most incredible, spectacular game that was kind of the aggregation of all the best games they'd ever played, and realized that, like, wow, one blockchain can't support that. So our first conversations were, what are we going to build that we would never quit? Because we've reached the point in our careers where we get to do the things we want. So we're not driven by market factors and influences. We were going to go to market next Thursday. We are still going to market next Thursday. And I really believe a year from now, I won't say it's impossible to rug people. I won't say it's impossible to be anonymous. But like you just said, it's the true builders. You have to do it for the love of the long-term game, because the days of easy and cheap and cheating, I think they're ending, especially now. If not now, very soon. Every time a Pixelmon makes it through, every time a big project gets doxed and they find 3 rug pulls in their history, those types of things, we actually love, because that means that only the true players and builders will be left in the end, and that'll be
So
us.
well said. And I think this is where people, you know, they discount what decentralization is and how it benefits us, right? The immutability of the blockchain and decentralization is why we can sniff out scams within 3 months. I mean, look at something like Enron, that, because of the red tape that's created in public markets and because of the opaqueness that is allowed, can continue to run their scam for years and decades and completely ruin lives and families. Yeah. In blockchain, we find that shit in months. You can't hide. You can only hide for so long. And I think that is the benefit of decentralization. It's that we are able to self-regulate through things like price and through things like the immutability of the blockchain.
Yeah, and I think we're going to have a violent agreement about this. I'm not sure everybody wants to hear, but, you know, cheaters lie in shadows, and this market by the day is having less and less shadows. It's the same with the early days of the internet. It's the same with the early days of Facebook ads. It's the same with the early days of Amazon. I mean, Sam built $100 million business on Amazon. I've done a lot of stuff on Amazon. 5 years ago, you could just cheat your ass off. Now, nobody cheats. So that's the way this will evolve. I'm grateful for it, because otherwise, think of the industries that don't evolve towards some sort of standard. The illegal drug industry, for instance, not evolving to some sort of standard. So I'm glad that we are, and I'm probably, you know, going to piss off a bunch of people, but that's okay. That's how we feel.
Yeah,
I like
I've always
Oh, yeah.
been a fan of the pseudonymous economy, not necessarily the anonymous economy. But I do think you're absolutely correct in the fact that the market is evolving very quickly. Every time someone makes a transaction, every time a project mints, every time somebody experiences something, the market aggregates all of that intelligence, and we are getting better. We are getting more efficient. We're getting better at sniffing out the scams, and we're rejecting a lot of that in real time. And I do think that transparency, especially that you guys touched on, about the team being out there in public and building and being known and having a track record of history is so important. And I think we're going to continue to see that more and more and more. And the trustworthiness of our industry, particularly NFTs, will strengthen with it. And then, of course, once that happens, a lot of the I'm going to air quote the normies out there that have such a strong distrust for NFTs, particularly when it comes to gaming, but just in general, I think that we'll start to see that wash away. I do want to just welcome up to the stage our friend Dots, who managed to make it. How are we doing today, Dots?
I'm doing amazing with everything. Am I allowed to say that actually with the market the way that it is? I don't know.
Yeah, please.
We've been very
Whatever
frank.
you want.
Yeah.
All right, this is dog shit. But I wanted to start off by just saying, hey, I'm sorry I'm late. It's nice to meet all of you. Didn't mean to be tardy and don't mean to be disrespectful. So thanks for having me.
Not a problem at all, man. It is a very tumultuous time right now. There's lots of stuff going on. I know that you guys at Augmented Labs have a lot of stuff going on too, and we're just happy you were able to make it here with us. Not that you need much introduction, but do you want to give us, just for the sake of the spaces, a quick rundown on your NFT journey and where you're getting to right now with what you've got going on?
Yeah, sure. So for anyone that doesn't know me, my name's Nathan, Dots on Twitter, CEO of Augmented Labs and founder of Kaiju Kings. Started in this space. What's crazy is soon to be a year ago in a couple of days, and just worked my way up, got entrenched in it, started building, and excited to be here for the next 5 years. Right now, we're working on just continuing the Kaiju Kings play to earn ecosystem and looking at expanding into like a AAA game. So
Beautiful, bud. Yeah, this is one of my favorite projects in the space. I think I minted my kaiju when they minted, and really kaiju's changed the game. The standard model in which most people tried to launch their projects after what kaijus did basically changed how projects were launched, how they tried to build followings, how they use Discord. And it has been a project that, while it had some of the most insane hype we had ever seen building up, it avoids hype on purpose, which I think is so important now. Like now, as we look back on what's happened over the last 6 months, we could see the danger that projects get in by over-promising and saying that they're going to do certain things and not. And this is just something that I think I've always respected about what kaijus do, because he had, not once have they ever overpromised something. They always take community input, and the bedrock that is built there has allowed them to survive now 2 bear markets. And you look around at what is going on right now, that kaiju floor has held up remarkably well, and it's because of the interesting things they're doing and the community that they've built. So real honor to have Nathan here with us today. And yeah, we've really just been talking about kind of P2E in general, the state of it and where it is and what it's kind of like building games in this industry, which is, largely built, as we were talking, on promises and things like that.
Yeah. And first of all, you absolutely nailed it. And, what you say matters not at all, especially in this space. It's what you do. So when we approached this, what we decided to do was build everything in advance, promise and deliver, and then have a roadmap which built on that. So I'll give you a for instance. The lore. The lore is obviously very, very important, and I think we have just amazing lore. But to execute that lore, we needed 5 smart contracts, like really high level, and we needed them audited. And we wanted staking on reveal, and we wanted to be able to play the whole first season. And that takes a lot of extra effort. We had all 8,700. Right now, they're hand checking all 8,778 graphics, which are amazing. So it doesn't become one of these things that when you mint, you say, "Great, we'll get back to you guys in a while." When we said merch drops, we're 9-figure merch guys. So we did merch drops before we've already done merch drops. And as far as building community goes, the way you're going to survive bear markets is by true believers, because all the financial buyers will be gone. But if there's anything that you feel like you're a part of, it can be your bowling team that you feel like you're a part of, then that kind of transcends any financial transaction. So we worked heavily on that in the beginning, by actually collaborating with our friends. So, and we won't start name dropping, although our friends are the bigger communities. And Fred, I've asked you this a couple of times, but how many like real collabs, not like some BS thing, have we done in the last 2 or 3 months?
I wouldn't say, like close to 100 maybe.
Yeah. And so these are the respected, not the biggest. We also turn down the venture capital and the private equity and the guilds and all the other ways you can make quick bucks to get here. But lastly, we feel like we need to protect the NFT space as a whole. Like we need to contribute to the positive story. So that's why we're putting on the world's largest NFT event on July 7th through 9th. It's called NFT WorldCon. You can look at it on nftworldcon.com. We're going to set the world record for it. It's not just sponsored by Metavolution. We own the event. And if you look at the speakers, it'll be names you realize from the gaming industry and then some other big people. So I think, like I said, again, if you're going to go all in, publish a believable roadmap and then give signs that you're doing it. And if you say you're all about community, then prove that you're building community. And that's been our strategy all along.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I look forward to looking into that too, because I think it's something that needs to happen. And, if you're bringing in people from the traditional gaming world to come and talk and be a part of it, I think that it's going to be a very interesting conversation, especially because, you see it all of the time in the news. This big gaming company hires a Web3 development team. This other gaming company is looking into launching NFTs. Like, it is happening in real time. We're all watching it go down, and we know that they're coming. And any company of any size right now has some kind of team doing exploratory work in how they can integrate their current business model into this. And I don't think it's because they see it as a quick buck opportunity. Truth be told, there's still lots of money and opportunity to be made in NFTs and whatnot. But I do think that, long gone is the time where the music industry gets caught with their pants down because the internet happens and people start sharing and they go, "Oh my God, what is happening?" All of these companies are looking way, way, way further into the future. And that to me is always a bullish sign. I know a lot of people push back against these traditional companies being like, "We don't need them. They're not built on what we want this to be." And maybe that is true, but they are definitely not ignoring it. And I think that this is a really fascinating conversation too, because I think that, us, the kind of grassroots movement in the NFT space, kind of building from the ground up, and then we have these other AAA gaming titles that are kind of taking it from the top down. There's going to be some kind of meeting in the middle. And I'm curious as to know what you guys think that looks like. Do you think that a AAA gaming company can do us all a favor and onboard tons of gamers, or do you think it has to be that grassroots movement, or where on the spectrum do you think that falls? Free Market, I'm going to kick that question to you first.
Well, I mean, I think that obviously when you are a small company or a startup, which I guess most of us in the space are, you have the advantage of being nimble and you can adapt quickly and you can do things that very large, slow moving bodies cannot necessarily do. So I think that does provide you advantages. I mean, look at Tesla, their ability to disrupt manufacturing practice and all these things that need to be changed. So there is some of that. And it does mean that crypto native teams have that advantage, but you're fighting against experience and capital. So I actually think both will do well. You just have to recognize who and what you are and lean into those strengths, I think.
Yeah, I believe it's something even simpler. I believe the best product with the best marketing is going to win. Now, if you have a crappy product, it doesn't matter how big your company is, you still have a crappy product. So, one huge advantage, the play to earn space is different. It's a skill set, and trust me, like and Sam, I'll let Sam chime in on this, but it's an entirely different skill set. We found that out this last 5-6 months. And then a community. What we found, especially, there's a huge overlap. There's the gaming community, and then there's the NFT community. But there's NFT gamers is like the real hardcore people. So what I believe is that we have a short-term advantage based on the fact that this is still too early. Although, it's like the U.S. government. Hey, they want to put in seatbelt laws. Well, fantastic. It's only going to take them 20 years. I come from big. I built a $500 million company, and I've done the private equity venture capital stuff. I can just tell you the conversations are different in those rooms. They're talking about deploying capital for focus group projects and studying, and they want to hire analysts and we got some time. We got 2 or 3 years where we can be nimble. It does take capital, guys. We know. We can tell you about how much we spent, but not that much that it takes venture capital. So I think we got a nice short-term advantage, but ultimately the best product's going to win. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, some great points. I definitely think there's advantages to both sides. Like, what's happening is like the big players, they obviously have the money, the team, the infrastructure in place. But I think that what's going to be hard for them is they have a game, for example, Fortnite building a metaverse. Like that's going to be interesting, but it's going to be hard. Like for let's say Fortnite, if they want to implement a like a play to earn aspect, because their game is already built a certain way. So to introduce monetary incentives is going to, I think, ruin how their game is played and so on. So they have sort of a much bigger challenge. They have to convince their existing user base, which for a lot of games is, let's say, kids, these kind of things. So yeah, I think that's going to be like a very big challenge for this. Like I mean, I don't want to go too deep, but like you have all this user experience right now. That's a big problem for people to get onboarded. So I think there's going to be like a couple really important steps that have to happen before. So how easy can you get a wallet? How easy can you get the wallet secured so that like 35-year-old person that is not technological at all can easily like get started? And then like there has to be, although it's growing really fast, like the space in general, I think there has to be like one big event that makes it that everyone wants to jump in. Like I remember in 2017 when crypto went crazy, like Bitcoin went crazy, and everyone and their grandmother like we're talking about Bitcoin. They didn't know what it was, but it sort of hit a certain point where like that was the event where for a while it went really mainstream. Everyone was talking about it. And obviously with the bear market we've mentioned, it's going to make this a lot harder. It's great for people that are there for long term, but it's bad because it gets like a really bad rep you have Terra, you have all these things where people are like, yeah, well, obviously, like the people that we need eventually to onboard in the space to make this like a viable long term. All these people are probably saying, well, of course, everything's crashing. It's a scam. It's built on nothing and all these things. So it's going to take, I think, a really big event to happen. I have no clue what it is, so that people can finally like see, all right, this is where it's going. Because right now, like people don't understand. They see like JPEGs and they're like, well, I can write the famous right click and save. Like they just don't get it. So I don't know what's going to take, but I think we're not there yet. But and real quickly, like the small projects, obviously they know the community more, they're more engaged, so it's easy, obviously a lot easier for like to build something. But it's they don't have, like we don't have the scale, we don't have all the infrastructure and as much capital as necessary to build something that's like a real huge AAA game that costs hundreds of millions of dollars to pull off.
Yeah, I like what you said there about the, it'll take a moment. A lot of it's just exposure. Dots, you've been building from the ground up. We've watched all of this transpire over, the last year, as you said. It's been a year now for you. How do you see all of this playing? It's got to be, it feels vindicating, right? Like you're onto something when everybody else is starting to go, oh shit, we need to do this too.
Yeah, and I'm going to be kind of contrarian here and like provide some alpha, and maybe it changes the space. Maybe I should be the one capitalizing on this, etc. But we need to start talking differently. Like in the space, like people say, like, hey, we constantly say the word NFTs and like talk about NFTs, and in games, that's just a construct. It's just a data point, right? Like I don't actually think gamers care about NFTs. The people that play games that are into NFTs right now care about ownership and see the usefulness of actually owning the items inside that game, right? Like if you go back, you look at Counter-Strike, like Counter-Strike is play to earn. You play games, you get loot boxes, you can then pay, Valve to open them or sell them to someone else, and you call it a day, right? Granted, it's not going to be a full-time job for you, but that's already out there. The RuneScape economy is traded on the black market and props up the Venezuelan economy. Like gamers want to be able to trade assets back and forth because it's worth social equity. When people come in and they start talking about like, hey, the future of gaming is everything's on chain and we need these NFTs to back them and things like that. Honestly, the traditional gamer is probably fine with a centralized authority saying, hey, you can trade this to other players. It doesn't have to be on the blockchain. So I think what really matters in the space and where it's going to go and how we get mass adoption is just moving back to player owned models where I can sell my League of Legends skin instead of sitting on it for 10 years. So,
well, that's a great point, and I want to ask you, how do we change that narrative? Because I've been gaming for almost all my life. It sounds like you have. We talked to Sam and Fred, who are lifelong gamers, and there's still such a pushback on the idea of NFTs, even though at its core is just the idea of ownership and being able to actually have some kind of agency over these assets that you've worked to collect. Why do you think that narrative has been lost on gamers, and how do you think that we get them to that point?
I mean, I might say something wild here. I'm just gonna get in so much trouble today. I actually don't fucking care. The market's down. NFTs themselves and how these things are spun up and how they're raised, etc. When I launch an NFT project, right, and I'm like, hey, I'm creating community and I'm reinvesting back into you guys and doing those things, and we try to skirt around securities laws, etc. You know what I mean? And we're raising this money by selling pictures. The traditional gamer cannot afford to grind 6 months on Twitter for a whitelist, pay $10,000 to get into your community in the hopes that that community builds you a game that then maybe returns that investment. I'm not crowdsourcing my dollars like that. So I think we just have to shift how the entire space is seen in a lot of ways. And then that takes away the allure, right? So like a lot of people see the money and they come in. So it's definitely difficult.
Terry, what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, I'm one in a minute here, we're going to talk about why we built the baddest game on the planet, which is, at the core of this. But it's so important. Now, here's where I see where we're at now is it's 70% financial, 30% gaming. So what's going on? If you have a shitty game, a shitty play to earn game in a year or in 2 years, it won't be around. Why? Because the financial opportunity will be mitigated away, right? Because there'll be these peaks, these valleys. I mean, they're already talking about Bitcoin tracking with the Dow Jones. The bigger things get, the less movement. Ethereum is right behind it. So it's money, 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 money. And the reason it's money, money, money is because crypto is past the tipping point. And so if you study market cycles, you know that crypto is being adopted twice as fast as the internet was adopted. And the internet was adopted very, very quickly. So that simply means there's more people with eyes on, it's a supply demand thing. Now, in the future, as NFTs get way past Ethereum and way past gaming, and you see how they're kind of marching up in complexity? Pretty soon there'll be real estate contracts and all kinds of other more complex things. So NFTs just happens to be at the crosshairs of development with gaming because it's convenient. And it's going to move right past this. So what we tried to do, just to be quite frank, Sam's an engineering management degree from West Point. Sam's an actuary. I've done a couple $1 billion worth of stuff. He had $100 million gaming company. Not us just touting our resume because we're here working our ass off, but we're not trying to aim at a spot that is being passed. What we are trying to do is, as the market develops into what it's going to be, is it a really kick-ass fun game that kind of pushes the limits of on-chain? Because we wanted to build something that on-chain just couldn't support. That's why we built a layer 2 bridge right out of the gate. But can you also have a nice return? So like we got on with the Origins people, and those guys just grilled the shit out of us about the financial part and the ROI, and they keep track. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a game where we don't advertise it as the best return you'll ever get from playing a game. And we also don't advertise it as the most amazing game you'll ever play. We just want to build a great game that has a nice financial return that's easy to understand and play, that you don't have to turn your fingers bloody playing it 16 hours a day. And we really feel that our timing is absolutely perfect. Why? Because the financial guys are like, yeah, there's easier money other places. Well, cool. Maybe the market moves slower, but better without these crazy volatility runs. So, I think we're all in violent agreement. We're just thoroughly committed long-term to this. We are unafraid, playing with our own money, and let's see where we're at in a year here. And I think we're going to be in great shape.
Yeah, and I can agree to that. I think, when we're talking about games, it just in crypto in general, a lot of people will take the route like, oh, hey, I want to make a game that's integrated to crypto. But I think the first step is to always build a fun game, right? Like crypto and ownership and off-chain and trustless and all these things, like that should happen after the fact. Like you got to build a good game first. And then I think the market comes to that, right? Like let's say you offer a free, you created a game, it's free to play for the first 100,000 people. And then those people can trade their characters. If those people love the game and they play it and they want their friends to play it, their friends will they'll buy it, right? Like it'll be worth something because people are having fun playing it.
Yeah, I'm more concerned. Then I'll stop it with a soapbox, I swear, and then maybe we'll let Sam talk about why our game is badass. But I'm more afraid of this industry getting ruined before we get out of the blocks. Like I said, I'm not pitching NFT WorldCon. I'm not. But when you go look at it, you're seeing there's free tickets. We're going to bring 20, 30,000 people. Why? It's what we do, man. It's not a big deal for us. We run big masterminds and I've built massive communities. It's not hard. What we want to do is say we have to change the dialogue, the conversation. Well, part of the conversation is there's too much damn theory, guys. So we have 4 tracks at NFT World, and I'm not pitching it because it's free. I'm just saying one of them is a track. There's a track on vision, which is this whole conversation, but then there's a track on creation. There's a whole track on gaming. There's these actually very practical things where we have to actually start down the road of development, because then we have more to talk about because we're actually doing it. So my job is not to build the best game in the world. My job is to build the biggest game in the world and to bring the biggest community to it. So that's why I'm so passionate about this, not so much about tokenomics, which Sam is, fortunately.
Well, yeah, and before we dig into that, I do just want to say, like, I think you both touched on this point where this is like, gaming has been around for 40 years now in some way, shape, or form, video gaming that is, and people have played it without really earning any money, and in fact infusing money into their participation of it, and at its core it was always just because it was fun to play. And I do think when we're shifting the narrative and shifting the vision of it, it should be a fun first, and then earning and being rewarded for your participation kind of comes after the fact, and anything that you earn on top of it is just silver lining if you actually enjoyed playing the game that you were participating in, whether it was socially, whether it was a skill-based thing, or anything like that. And I think that that's an incredibly profound conversation that needs to be had over and over and over again so that we continue to drive that narrative forward.
Yeah, but never once, I don't know, do what you hate because the money is good is never a good business philosophy. Do what you love, even if the money's not as good as doing what you hate, you do what you love. So, and gamers are passionate and they smell, I've had enough conversation with Sam and Fred. Like, we look at the other projects and we're not here to mention a name or nothing because we're trying to glean the best from each of the projects. But we can clearly see, oh, yeah, they're not doing anything. Oh, yeah, they don't even understand the market. And those will be washed out.
Free market, you're a big fan of the term play and own instead of play to earn. Do you want to dig a little bit into that with the context of the conversation we were just having?
Definitely. And I mean, I think, what Terry has been saying, and what I think also, Kaiju Kings have even proved just with Rooftop Rampage, is a game has to be fun. The product has to be good at the base of all of it, because I always even talk about how tokenomics, they're not some panacea. There's no alchemy. There isn't creating value out of thin air. The value comes from the product that you've made. So what I'm going to say really speaks more to the marketing conversation. Like, how do you talk about these things and how do you sell them? And play to earn, I think, is just a great term because it's short and succinct and catchy, but really does a disservice to us as a whole. I had said it should be play to own, but we were doing an Ether Orcs community spaces a couple weeks ago, and shout out to Poof over there who mentioned it, that he takes it even a step further. It should be play and own. And the idea, as we have been talking about from the beginning, that I think is profound about on-chain gaming is ownership. It is the ability to own and trade these assets, whether it's, as we said, a centralized organization or not, controlling the game. And you want centralization, that QC, quality control. It doesn't happen through DAO and public opinion and community polling. It happens when people who are great at what they do put together a fabulous product and deliver it to you. So I just think when it comes to how do we explain what we do to people who don't know anything about crypto or anything about NFTs, that the term should be play and own, not play to earn.
Yeah, I thoroughly agree. Love Poof, love Wrangler, love that whole team. That's Fred is OG with Ether Orcs, right, Fred?
You can say that.
Yeah. We actually
were you in on the original mint there?
Oh fuck, I wish. It's just after.
Well,
yeah.
We were in that Discord before the mint typing Zug for like a month and a half. And lucky we did, because they decided who was in the whitelist based on who actually typed Zug in there. And there were like 1,000 people who had joined before me who didn't type Zug and they didn't get the whitelist. We were able to mint 2. Over at Alpha Mint, we started the largest horde at the time, which allowed us to level up one of our free orcs to go for Orc God or a high loot pool and max mint the number of orcs we could because we put them in a large pool and basically compounded the first mint stage. So we all ended that first phase with 8 orcs divided, but we each got 8 orcs, and we were able to have an orc that was either Orc God or one below. I went for Orc God and failed, which sucked. But I love Ether, and they just delivered a hell of a product with Dungeon Crawl. I know it's still maybe rudimentary and simple to what kids today know as gaming, but it really nails the nostalgic feel, and I nerd out hard on that game, I gotta say.
Yeah, we we built their merch site. They had been just so kind to us. Poof Wrangler, Poof's actually speaking at our event, and just so they helped us avoid a lot of mistakes. I will just say that. But back to play to earn versus play and own. When you say play to earn, that connotates that you're a worker. You work for something. So like workers earn, right? But owners own. And so I believe that, or at least the way I look at investing in the NFT space is like, what is the value of the NFT long term, right? Like if I bought a house now, is it in a good area? Is it by a beach? Is it a growing population? Is there crime? These kind of checklist things that says, hey, this is a pretty good investment that's likely to increase in value over time. Now, if you can monetize that investment along the way, it's kind of like owning an apartment complex. Hey, the market value of the complex goes up, but I also make income in the meantime. And I think that this concept, that's the concept of ownership, whereas earning is like people who trade time for money. At least that's what so I agree, but it's also crazy how if you mention the word crypto, people freak out. It's so polarizing. Now, they didn't know, like, what's this crazy new thing that's happening on the internet? Well, as soon as somebody called it Web 3, well, do you want Web 3? Well, yeah, it's an upgrade from Web 2. So words are so powerful. I was hoping that NFT would not be what got locked in. I was hoping that play to earn was not the thing that got locked in.
Yeah.
Because it's not indicative of what it really is.
Yep.
It's not the type of thing that you would be like aspire to. And if you have to explain something this far into the adoption cycle, what my wife asked me what NFT was 3 days ago, and I do this for a living, so
Right.
it's tough.
No, I mean, especially when it comes to that, I always say we'll know this industry took the next step when we stop saying NFT, right? Because all this is, and whether we're talking about gaming or even just a PFP, all it is digital verifiable ownership. Now, to anybody who has been alive the last 20 years, this can obviously be valuable for a lot of things. But when you watch TV, you don't talk about what's happening inside the screen and the technology that underpins it. You just know that you turn on button, image get to your face. That's how it works. No one should be talking about non-fungible tokens or how they interact. It should just be, I like digital Mickey Mouse. I buy digital Mickey Mouse. It makes sense to me and I own it. And that's, that's when we know our industry will have evolved into its next phase, I think.
Right.
There was a point in time when people used to say they were logging into the internet too, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Good point.
I'm gonna be. I hope if you guys have a little bit more time. I
Yeah.
did have somebody that was patiently waiting with their hand raised to come up on stage. I just want to bring up iPain Ruler to if you had a question for the panel here, or maybe they were just jumping up on stage.
Hello.
Oh, there
Thanks
you go. You're
for
up.
thanks for this the opportunity given to me.
Of course.
Uh, so what I want to ask is so this is about not about play to earn again, but it's play to earn, right? So if the holder is not like the type doesn't love to game and
Yeah.
doesn't have a time to game. So what the other benefit the holder will get instead of gaming? Like me,
Yeah,
I don't usually have time for game.
I'll take this. One, you
Mm-hmm.
can have an NFT, get a Metavolution Genesis Mint, and you can do nothing. But if you decide to stake it, you'll start earning yields. And we have our own currency. There's actually two currencies in the game. And you can progress at a very, very slow pace towards different things like land and obelisks and stuff like that. So that's if you just did absolutely nothing. But what's the utility for you? You know, that's the big the buzzword. So what we're doing, or what we've done with our game, is we're creating utility around just being a holder. So, for instance, um, merch drops. People love merch. NFT Worldcon. We have a whale day where there's just 100 of like the senior, like guys, getting together. Inside the community, believe it or not, there are people who are not gamers who are avid community members. And so we created a sub community called the Immortal Army, and just 1,337 people, which I did not know meant something in the gaming world until Sam told me. And so you get a sense of community. There's some people that want to talk about how, the portfolio theory of NFTs, but there's gamers there, but then there's utility outside of that. And so we look at this like Amazon. When Amazon first came out with Amazon Prime, it was fast shipping, and that was good enough for most people. But now there are people who don't even use Amazon who have Amazon Prime because there's so many other valuable things that go with it. And if you think I'm kidding, go Google and type up Amazon Prime benefits. So what we're doing is we're busy stacking the utility with IRL stuff, with merch, with community, with all the other reasons why people do stuff, even if they're not avid gamers.
Sorry. Yeah. Can I ask again?
Yeah.
Oh, so if I stake my NFTs, I will get like token, right? So is there any possibilities to make like a marketplace
To
from to use the token to get a future at least with the project?
Yeah. Hey, Sam, why don't you talk a little bit about our currencies and what you can do with them and how you can earn with them?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, of course, when you have a token, the hard thing is like how do you maintain it? How do you burn and stuff? So introducing things like a marketplace, as you said, um, like we'll have a marketplace. You can buy merge, do other cool stuff with your token. You can uh, there's going to be a liquidity pool where you can take that token and then transition it to ETH and so on. So there's all these things you can do with token. And I think that's um, overall like that's a much bigger question too about like what else can you do with in the space as general if you're not a gamer. But I think like for us we're looking at like Dots mentioned like a AAA game later, and I think that's amazing. For us, we haven't minted yet, so we're not there yet. Like we're looking at how can we get people involved in simple manner uh, at scale and in a game that's engaging. So that's like I think the probably the biggest challenge right now. Well, we're one of the biggest challenges. Like how can you onboard people uh, and keep them engaged, but you have something that's like a really simple game. Because I remember when Fred showed me Terrors for the first time last year, and then he was looking, and like a lot of people in chat in their Discord were confused, like what do I do, like what's happening, and then Fred was a builder, is a builder there, so he was just jump in and go on calls with people, explain to them how they have to do. So like that part, I think was one of the biggest challenge we're trying to work on is like how can you make this as easy as possible while still make something that has depth, that is fun to play.
Perfect. I appreciate the question there, iPain. Free market. What are your thoughts about this conversation so far and where it's been going? I don't know. Twitter's rugging everybody.
Sorry about that. I keep getting rugged, and for some reason, my mute button won't turn off. I'm loving the conversation right now. Of course, if anybody had any question for the guests that are up here, we could talk about that. I know Metavolution wanted to talk a little bit about their game too, so we can let them do that as well.
Sam, why don't you tell them about the game?
Sure. Yeah. So so I mean, we're talking about play to earn the gaming the whole time. So so Metavolution is our Terry and I's project with with Fred as our CMO, and as I mentioned just before, what we're looking to do is taking elements from the games in the past that we love, whether that was although I didn't really enjoy Diablo 3, there was some elements that were interesting, but like Diablo 2 and those kind of games, how can we take the elements that made these games really successful, engaging, fun to play, and bring them in a simple manner into our P2E game. And so what we try to do is like when the game mints, then on reveal we have our staking already available for currency. We have 2 other collections. So what we want to do is, because there's a whole story, and I'll let Terry explain it after, because he's a much better storyteller than I am, so I don't want to bore you guys with that aspect. I'll do it. I don't do justice. But you have the game. Everything is tied to the story, and it's all progression based. So you start, and you have different opportunities. So you have your obelisk. So how do you obelisk are the 4 elements? So how do you like RNS the energy from the land? So we're looking at, you have to secure the 4 elements: air, water, the wind, water, fire, and earth. And so you harness those 4 elements in order to secure a land. And these are all like mintable with our in-game currency, because our goal is like once you start in the game, you get your Genesis mint, and then everything else is you use what you earn by staking. And then as you progress, we have the layer 2 bridge, we have different questing, and we have mechanism like that look at like some people have more risk averse than others. Some people want to play safer, so we have like different game modes where if you want to be pretty safe, then we play the safe mode. If you want, like, there's safe, normal, and degen. So if you're a little bit a hardcore person, then you probably go like degen. And what it does is it makes it so that it's all about questing. So you would go on a quest, and there's just more chances that you have more interesting drops. So the probability of getting the drops are higher, but you are a little less likely to be able to complete the quest. And so it just progresses like that. And we try to bring elements, let's say from Diablo 2, where you have to put 3 items in the cube, and it's like the burn mechanism to get a chance to fight another boss. So that's sort of what we have. There's 4 bosses. All of them drop 1 artifact each. And then at the end, once you've completed all 4, you have to burn the 4 artifacts they drop to get a chance at the final boss. And then at that point, there's going to be eventually 1 person that defeats the boss, and then the season ends. So what we're trying to do is, once again, like we're taking elements, for example, seasons from Fortnite, where the game remains the same, but they always bring on new things that keep people engaged, because after a certain point, people get bored of the same thing, no matter what. So how can we revamp after season 1, while it's the same, the story progresses, but how can we introduce new element, change a couple of things where people are keeping engaged? Because the goal is obviously you want people to hold, you want people to be engaged in the community, to participate. And if you create the right incentives and build something interesting and keep innovating, keep releasing new things, then we believe that we'll be able to achieve that.
Yeah, and I'll hop in, like Sam said, and tell the story. First of all, building a great game is actually a science. We're both huge fans of Yukai Chao. If you don't know who he is, he wrote the book Actionable Gamification. He's probably the leading gaming consultant on the planet for big games. And so, like, every game has to have 8 elements. It's called the octalysis: meaning, empowerment, social influence, unpredictability, avoidance, scarcity, ownership, and accomplishment. And so, like, wow, that's a lot. And what you want to do is you want to make games plausible. In other words, like, oh, yeah, that could possibly happen. But fantastic. So where we started this whole thing was, and this will be the story in under 2 minutes. And if I can't get you excited about the game in 2 minutes, you'll probably never play it. It's the year 2119. And we had this thing called a pandemic. And guys, guess what? It's terrorists. The pandemic is actually a terrorist act. In fact, it's the terrorist act that will end human civilization. And terrorists are refining this method. They realize that with terrorism, hell, you only killed 1 million Americans. That's okay. You terrorized and shut the country down. So in the year 2119, terrorists have created the ultimate virus, which is for sure going to wipe out the world. Now, every human has some degree of believability that something like this could happen, because we had it happen to the dinosaurs and gosh, nuclear weapons and all of that. Well, fortunately, there is a group of people on Earth who are just different than us. Like, they're trying to go to Mars. Like, they're boring holes under Los Angeles. Like, they're inventing electric cars and giving away the technology. And thankfully, there's 10 creators who have planned for this day for 100 years, and they found a way for us to escape. Not all of us. It takes too much energy, but you can go into the metaverse and you can go through a portal, and the portal is called the Ark, just like Noah's Ark. And so these 10 superhumans, like one in each category, like the badass general of all time. And like one of our leading characters is called Malik Meterin. And if you think it sounds little like Vitalik Buterin, yeah, you might be right. Although I would never swear to that in the court of law. And so what happens is these creators, by working on this technology, take you into the metaverse. They go first, 8,778 immortals, amazing looking immortals, not humans anymore, because we had to turn them into machines, but we could blueprint their personalities, and that would go with them forever. Now, of course, unplanned, at the very last second, one got through, one that wasn't supposed to. His name is Luciverse, and he's more powerful than the rest of them, maybe together. And if you think his name sounds a little bit like Lucifer, yeah, that could be, but I wouldn't swear to that in a court of law. Now, when you get to the metaverse, there's no land. There's no like blue ocean you go build a house on. You have to make your own. So there are 4 elements you're going to need: air, earth, water, and fire. Well, that'll be the first thing you get. And when you get one of each of those, you can trade them in for a piece of land. And then once you have a piece of land, now you can go through acts, different acts, through quests, and progress through the game and beat all the bosses. But your ultimate goal is to defeat Luciverse and save the world of Metavolution. So this is what we sat down on a piece of paper, kind of like our Southwest napkin moment. And we said, oh, hell yeah, that's amazing. Let's do that. And so that is the game lore through season 1. And of course, like any good long-term venture, yeah, Lucifer's might be gone. Maybe he won't. Maybe something else is there. But we're not going to reveal any of that lore until we get right towards the end of season 1. So that's the game, and we think it's going to be really, really fun to play.
Fantastic. I appreciate that rundown. It sounds very interesting, and I'm excited to dig into it myself a little bit. I'm going to be looking into it more. We have one person who's been waiting very, very patiently, Miss Nuki. If you have a question you want to throw out there, I'll give you the final one before we start to wrap this spaces up, if you're still there.
Hi, how are you guys?
Great, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's 10 p.m. in London. So I just had one question. What exactly is the name of the game, and what inspired you to come up with this particular game? It sounds really exciting. I loved hearing about it, but it's just a little bit interested in understanding the background of the game.
Sam, I'll let you take that one. How did we end up with Metavolution?
Yeah. So yeah, the name of the game is Metavolution, and the way we ended up is I think I touched on some of the elements maybe throughout the entire space, but ultimately we were looking at make how like something Fred keeps saying it, like something that people wouldn't have to spend a lot of time playing every day, because we understand there's time constraints. So like a lot of these elements went into like how do we set up the game, because ultimately, sure, a AAA game sounds amazing and so on, but we understand not everyone's going to have time to play and so on. But yeah, so the inspiration came from different game, mainly Diablo 2. Diablo 2 is probably the best game Fred and I played, or no bias, but when we were young, and as far as that stuck throughout, like a lot of the mechanism there around the different bosses, what like the different difficulties, the progression aspect with different acts and quests and bosses and all these things. So like that is the if I had to insert just one single most impactful thing that inspired us was definitely a Diablo 2 game wise.
Okay. So are you planning to come up with more series of games in the future, like over a course of like 3, 4 years? Or is it just going to be one game played all along with
So
different
we're
episodes?
yeah, no, that's a great question. So we're gonna start obviously first our first mission as a company is minting out. Then we have the concept of season is really why we went for that, because we want to be able to keep evolving our game as different things, the technology evolves, as the space evolves, and so on. Like we're going to be able to keep innovating rapidly with the because every season is not going to be a year long. Like every season should be between 4 and 5 months. It's going to really let time for people to settle in, start playing, and then we're going to have milestone. And then when someone finishes whatever, then it starts ramping down. So that's how we're going to keep one game and keep it evolving throughout the time.
That's really great. I'm sorry I joined the session pretty late, so I'm having such questions. So how
Oh, no
many
worries.
NFTs do you have in total? Is there a number to it?
Yeah, 8,778.
Wow, 8778. And you're in the whitelisting phase right now, right?
Correct. Yeah. We're launching next week, so it's pretty intense now. We're doing some. I'll let Terry's little doing a lot of that right now, so he can probably explain that better than me.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to pitch anybody. We intentionally backloaded our marketing so we could concentrate on building strong relationships with people for the right reasons. But we really started pushing our marketing about a week ago. I think we're up about, I don't know, Fred, what are we on Twitter right now? Fred, you there? Sam, you got any idea how many Twitter followers we have now?
Almost 86,000, I think.
86,000. We just kicked off a $200,000 giveaway yesterday. You have to be in our Discord to win. So inside of that, we are raffling off 2 of our one of ones, a bunch of free mints, this NFT WorldCon event. We have some founders passes. We have some ETH. So now is really a really good time, and that's why we're out really, connecting with quite frankly people we've already known. So we've gone back and, like you mentioned, whitelisting. The first thing we went back is to the communities who supported us early, like Ether
Mm-hmm.
Orcs, and we said, poof, what can we do for your community? So we have, I don't know what the number is. I think we're about 3,000 whitelists, but super high value. So there'll be a high conversion rate on that. So, the best way to get involved is obviously join our Discord. And then our Discord is bananas right now because we have so much, because we didn't, it is so hard. I mean, the typical marketing mistake is anytime you have something you think worth mentioning, you just throw it out there. We would have used up all the good stuff 3 months ago, but now it's like our characters are getting done. Our smart contracts are done. All these marketing things that we've been working on. So we just have craziness over in our Discord ahead of going to the pre-sale. We don't want to just hand out whitelists to everybody. We want them to mean something to some people. But if you're there, there's a pretty good chance you'll be able to get one if you really want one.
I will definitely join your Discord because I'm finding it pretty interesting, the entire P2E gaming. Even we have the same project, but I won't talk about it right now.
Yeah.
When did you guys start?
We started on, I was officially infected on December 10th. I have an apartment in
Last year.
Apartment in
Oh,
La Jolla. Then one of my somebody on my team said, no, you spell crypto with a Y. I'm like, really? That's fascinating. And then by Monday, we were quitting things. Like we have a mastermind that the average person does $40 million in e-commerce. Like we ain't got time for that. We had a 7-figure digital mastermind. We ain't got time for that. So we've been just literally transferring and putting all of our energy time into this. I think if you, like right now we have 4 devs, 7 graphic designers, and we have just been psychotic about this. Funding it all ourselves, quite frankly. But
so you funded yourself. You've not taken any external funding at all?
0.
Wow, that's commendable, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's either, like I said, either you're,
Or you're too rich.
well, no. We're too passionate. We hate doing boring stuff. And trust me, it'll, with the market crashing in this and that, but like, us minting out, don't get me wrong, we love money, but it's not life-changing money for us. But NFTs and play to earn is life-changing for Sam and I. It is like I'm more passionate. Gosh, I've owned, I don't know, a lot of businesses, a lot of angel investing, founded some stuff, gone 9 figures before. Just not excited. And so this is the first time in probably 20 years where I am just incredibly excited about like doing something. It's innovative, it's new, it's exciting. It's a bit of a land grab for sure, but the huge advantage is, one, we're a docs team, we have our own money, we're fearless, and it's blue ocean. This is blue ocean, and if you're a real entrepreneur, then all you ever hope for is a shot to swim in the blue ocean, and this is what it is.
Yeah, it's
All
good.
right.
One
I
last
appreciate
question,
the
if you don't
question.
mind.
Yeah, we got time for one real quick one, and then we have to wrap
Yeah.
up the spaces.
Yes, definitely. And I'm really sorry about it. Terry, I'm very interested in understanding your marketing journey
Yeah.
because I am really struggling about it. And
Okay.
since it's getting late for everybody else, so I won't take so much time. But if I can get in touch with you offline, please, to understand how you have done marketing for your project will be really, really helpful for me.
All right, I'll give you a quick answer. We tell everybody. We had a presentation yesterday with me where we said, guys, here's our marketing strategy and our marketing plan. We did this in Discord, and so yes, please join us in Discord. You'll see Sam and I speaking quite a bit. We are actually doing voice chats. Like we literally, like, I don't know, we had 300 people on voice chat yesterday. It was bananas. But yeah, we're very accessible over there. So come see us over there for sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thanks for your questions. All right, guys. Free market. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap this spaces up?
No, I want to thank everybody for coming today. Dots, who had to bounce, and Metavolution. This was an amazing conversation. We got to learn a little bit about your game. We will see you on Moon Monday coming up next week, where we are going to have some huge announcements we are excited about. Our 2 Thank you, Terry, Sam, Metavolutions. Great time.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Awesome.
guys. That was
Appreciate you.
awesome. A lot of fun.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys. Again, thank you to the Metavolution team for coming. Thank you for Dots, who, as Free Market said, just had to bounce, but always great to talk to him, and always great to talk to you, Free Market. For anybody that's new to tuning into this space, we hold one of these every Thursday. It is focused around the P2E scene, or as we like to call it, the play and own scene. We like to bring on different projects, different founders, and just have a greater discussion about everything that's going on in this industry that we know and love so much. And of course, as Free Market said, Monday is Moon Mondays, where we'll be dropping some big announcements about Star Wolf. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. We appreciate it so much, and we'll catch you in the Discord.